Kidnap bad girl Gaia in San.
Back in 2003, Billionaires Club dropped in Nigeria. It wasn't just another occult movie, it was the main occult movie. A secret society, blood rituals, money raining from nowhere, betrayal, sacrifice, and the haunting consequences of unholy wealth. The film had that tension that left you wondering how far men would go for power. The cast was a mix of giants and emerging stars, all delivering performances that kept the VHS tapes rewinding over and over in many Nigerian homes. Now, over 2 decades later, let's look at the cast and where they are now. At number 11, we have Omi Okocha, who played Obi. In the film, Obi was the girlfriend of Zed after his wife was no more. She later became his wife, but she later found out the hard way about the dark past that her husband had. These were the roles Oge always nailed. Vulnerable but strong, betrayed but determined, her performance added heart to the otherwise cold world of ritual and greed. Even though Billionaires Club was just one early stepping stone in her career, it was the era where she carved out her niche. By 2002, she had already stunned audiences in Spanner with Chinedu Ikedezi and Sam Loko Efe, and her star only rose from there. Seductresses, emotionally tortured wives, and streetwise divas with equal finesse. Over the years, she starred in hit films like Blackberry Babes, Snake Girl, Corporate Maidens, and The Return of Black Bra. She was a fixture of the video CD golden era, the type of actress whose name sold tapes in Alaba and Onitsha market. Later, she transitioned into television with appearances in shows like Hotel Majestic and became a familiar face at Nollywood's events and red carpet. By the mid-2010s, her presence online was just as strong as on screen. She became a social media personality, often sharing inspirational messages, snippets of a lifestyle, and behind-the-scenes look at her acting life. In recent years, she has taken fewer roles to focus on personal projects, family, and brand endorsement, but Omi Okocha remains a respected name. At number 10, we have Pete Ene. This is a name that carried weight in every movie he stepped into. In Billionaires Club, he played Ekwe. He was the father of Obi, the lady that Zed wanted to marry. He was against the marriage from the start as his spirit didn't align with the thought of Zed as his son-in-law. Pete had a way of delivering his lines with that gravelly authority, so any scene he appeared in automatically carried more tension. After Billionaires Club, Pete Ene continued to be one of Nollywood's most respected elder characters. He was the go-to man for roles that demanded wisdom, grief, or spiritual depth. Films like Isakaba kept him in the spotlight, where he often played village heads, traditional rulers, or tortured fathers. But behind the scenes, tragedy began to strike. In the early 2010s, Pete's health took a downturn. He suffered a leg infection that became so severe it required amputation. It was a devastating blow, especially for a man whose career was still thriving. Unfortunately, complications from the surgery led to his passing on November 15, 2012. He was mourned deeply not just by the industry but by fans across Nigeria and the diaspora. At number 9, we have Fabian Adibbe. He played the character Ibo, the father of Zed, a man likely symbolizing tradition, morality, or quiet power. In movies like this, there's always that one voice of reason, the one older man who warns everyone about the price of blood money or who recognizes when something spiritual has gone wrong. That was Fabian's lane. He had that classic look, white beard, wise eyes, and the kind of slow, deliberate speech that made you stop and listen. His scenes in the movie were mostly about dropping heavy advice. When Billionaires Club blew up and turned into a multi-part phenomenon with parts 2 and 3, all releasing the same year, Fabian reprised his role. But strangely after that, he kind of slipped under the radar. He was never the loud, flashy king of actor, so it's not surprising he didn't chase the limelight. While his colleagues were taking lead roles or branching into directing, Fabian stayed in the background, often cast as a chief, elder, or spiritual father figure. By the late 2000s, he appeared less frequently in Nollywood movies, and by the 2010s, he was practically gone. Although he became more of a veteran statesman, appearing sometimes on social media. Next up at number 8, we have Bruno Iwa. He was one of the film's heavy hitters, playing the character simply known as Seth. And trust me, the name wasn't just for flair. This character embodied everything Billionaires Club was about. A man who had sold his soul for unthinkable riches, Bruno had a unique ability to look both dignified and terrifying at the same time, the perfect fit for this kind of role. Post-Billionaires Club, Bruno Iwa remained a pillar in Nollywood and gravitas, whether as a traditional ruler, a ritualist, or a haunted man. Some of his other noted appearances include Blood Money and Living in Bondage 2. But like Pete and Bruno's later years were marred by health struggles. He suffered from diabetes and glaucoma, illnesses that gradually dimmed his presence in the industry. Bruno Iwa has sadly passed away on April 10, 2021, after a long battle with illness. It was a heartbreaking end for a man who had given so much of his life to the art of acting and storytelling. At number 7, we have Shola Shobowale. She brought depth and fire to her role as Amandi, Zed's mother. Amandi represented a counterbalance, the voice of morality. She always supported her son but was against him when he decided to take up another wife just a few months after his first wife died. She embodied the role of a perfect mother. After Billionaires Club, Shola didn't just rise, she soared. She starred in some super story classics but took time off the screen in the late 2000s to focus on family in the UK. But when she came back, it was with a bang. The Wedding Party in 2016 reminded audiences of her comic timing and big screen charisma. But it was The King of Boys in 2018 that turned her into a cultural force. Playing Eniola Salami, a godmother torn between politics and the underworld, she redefined female villainy and power in Nollywood. That performance earned her a standing ovation from an entire generation of young viewers, both off and on screen. Shola is balancing her film career with international projects. In 2022, she shot a Netflix series in India under director Hamisha Dariani Ahuja. She remains active on Instagram, mentoring young actors, attending industry events, and being the icon we all know her to be. At number 6, we have Patience Ozokwo, aka Mama G. She portrayed Njideka, the mother of Victoria, the lead actress. Njideka wanted her daughter to get married so she could have grandchildren, and she kept on pressuring her daughter. Unfortunately, it ended in tragedy. Mama G continued her reign as the queen of wicked mother-in-law roles, churning out hits through the 2000s and 2010s. She starred in Ukwa, Old School, and Chief Daddy, solidifying her status as one of Nollywood's most loved and feared faces. In between films, she launched a gospel music career and became a born-again Christian, channeling her influence into ministry work and motivational speaking. Now in her mid-60s, Patience is still acting, but she's also doing a lot more outside the spotlight. She focuses on her church, her grandchildren, and her foundation. Still residing in Enugu, she occasionally takes up film roles, usually ones with positive moral messages, and has become a sort of moral compass for Nollywood. Next up at number 5, we have Clem Okafor. He took on the role of Okute, one of the founding members or senior initiates in the secret society. His character was cold, calculating, and ruthless when needed. Whether he was chanting incantations or making executive decisions about whose blood was next, Okute was the spiritual backbone of the club, calm but deadly. Before Billionaires Club, Clem had already made a name with End Time and Last Burial, and he kept that momentum going well into the 2000s. He was a staple in spiritual and thriller films, always the wise pastor, the tormented man, or the ritualist who knew too much. In the early 2020s, he stepped back from the spotlight due to serious health issues. In 2021, he underwent a successful spinal surgery after a near-fatal accident and opened up about his struggles, earning waves of public sympathy. As of 2025, Clem Okafor is a semi-retired living quietly in Nigeria. He takes occasional acting roles, mostly when the story resonates deeply. He's active in church, grateful for life, and known for his humility. While he's not as visible as before, his legacy in Nollywood spiritual thrillers remains untouched. At number 4, we have Kayo Oayo, the undisputed king of ritualist roles. He played the Don, the man everyone feared, nicknamed Nani Sacrifice. Don wasn't just a member of the Billionaires Club, he was its architect, the man who knew every chant, every rule, and every deadly consequence. Charismatic on the outside but sinister within, Don seduced men like Zed with wealth and destroyed them with secrets. Kayo was always in a suit, driving luxury cars, looking emotionless after just sacrificing someone for wealth. Don was the kind of character that lingered in your nightmares, and Kayo delivered it flawlessly. Kayo's career only blossomed more after Billionaires Club, and he acted in many popular movies and became a Nollywood legend. He stayed consistent through the decades, appearing in Living in Bondage, Breaking Free in 2019, which introduced his legacy to a new generation. He shocked many when he went back to school and became a lawyer, officially called to the Nigerian bar in 2020. He has since become a cultural figure known for balancing law, acting, politics, and fatherhood. Still sharp, still active, Kayo splits his time between courtrooms, movie sets, and public speaking gigs. He mentors young creatives, runs a media company, and occasionally pops up on social media with those classic sacrifice videos. At number 3, we have Chidi Ehezia. Her character, Victoria, was a young ambitious woman who owned a hairdressing salon. She was doing okay but lacked one thing, which was a husband. There are some scenes where she would go to the church crying and begging for a husband in front of God's altar. Chidi Ehezia always brought a softness and sincerity to her roles. Her crying scenes were especially haunting, the kind that made you feel her pain through the screen. She eventually found love in Zed, whom she married and gave birth, but was met with an untimely fate as her husband joined the dreaded Billionaires Club. Chidi Ehezia kept acting through the early 2000s, appearing in Billionaires Club 2 and 3 and other drama-rich films, but her visibility started to wane as the 2010s approached. She focused more on her personal life, stepped away from mainstream Nollywood, and kept a low profile. While her name still rings a bell for her older fans, she didn't pursue the limelight as aggressively as her peers. At number 2, we have Pete Edochie. In Billionaires Club, Pete played Billion, a name that wasn't just symbolic, it was the character. He was the man with the plan, the backbone of the occult brotherhood, the godfather of wealth by any means necessary. If you've ever watched this film, then you remember Pete's scenes. He didn't just act, he commanded. Whether he was seated at the head of a candlelit table giving orders in a hushed, thunderous tone, or leading a sacrifice in a long red robe, Pete's presence on screen was magnetic. One of the most iconic scenes was when he delivered that slow, methodical speech about wealth, power, and fear. His role in Billionaires Club showed that he's a man who would carry the weight of an entire movie on his shoulders. And let's not forget, by 2003, Pete Edochie was already a legend, thanks to his unforgettable performance as Okonkwo in Things Fall Apart back in 1987. But Billionaires Club gave him a fresh mystic. He wasn't just a traditionalist anymore, he was now the kingpin of dark power. After that film, Pete Edochie continued to dominate Nollywood, particularly in the roles of kings, chiefs, and patriarchs. Films like Idemili, Heavy Battle, My Sins, and Egg of Life showed off different shades of his acting. He also made a surprise move into more modern, internationally facing cinema with Lionheart in 2018, directed by Genevieve Naji. That film was Nigeria's official submission for the Oscars, and Pete's performance as a proud but aging father was both emotional and memorable. In the 2020s, Pete slowed down a bit, not because the roles stopped coming, but because age started catching up. However, he never retired. Instead, he became more selective, choosing films with real substance. By 2023, he had shifted more towards public speaking, cultural events, and mentoring younger actors. You'd still see him in films from time to time, but only when the story truly meant something. As of 2025, Pete Edochie is still very much respected and active in public life. While he is no longer running from set to set, he makes appearances at award shows, gives cultural talks, and occasionally weighs in on national conversation. He lives in Nigeria and remains an elder statesman in the industry. At number 1, we have Tony Uman, the man of many talents, the king of emotional eye acting, and one of Nollywood's most expressive performers. In Billionaires Club, he played Zed, a low-life chemist. He took up interest in Victoria despite being below her class. He later married her after she rejected other thick suitors for him. Zed, with the help of Victoria, expanded his shop and was doing fairly well until he crossed paths with Don, an old friend from his university days. After seeing how Don and his circle rode, he was seduced by the promise of insane wealth and paid the price for it. You can bet Zed had one of the most emotional acts in the film, the kind that includes crying at night, making regretful decisions, and of course, looking into the mirror with a haunted expression. Tony Umes had already made a name in the industry before Billionaires Club with many notable movies like Died Wretched and Sakobi. After Billionaires Club, he didn't slow down one bit. He stayed relevant, riding the next waves of Nollywood trends from romantic tragedies to family dramas. He kept his name in the spotlight and cemented his reputation as a versatile actor. actor. While some called his style overly dramatic, others loved it for what it was, pure and unfiltered emotion. In recent years, Tony Umez has also embraced the digital era. He's active on social media, especially Instagram, where he interacts with fans, drops motivational quotes, and posts throwbacks to his movie days. He's also a proud family man, often sharing pictures with his wife and daughter. He has also transitioned to the modern wave of Nollywood, embracing YouTube.